Continuing in Mr. Orth's flipped classroom for grammar, looking at kinds of dependent clauses. A noun clause is a dependent clause used in place of a noun or pronoun. Like other things doing the job of nouns, they can be replaced by it. An adjective clause is a dependent clause used to describe or modify a noun or pronoun. Like other things doing the job of an adjective, it modifies a noun. An adverb clause is a dependent clause used to describe or modify a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. In other words, it's modifying a word that's not a noun or pronoun. You can take out the word clause in the definitions here, and for the better part of what we're doing, it's no different than what you've learned before. But adding it to a newer understanding such as clauses, this might be a little confusing. Let's get some more examples of subordinating conjunctions, just so we're ready to go. Why subordinating conjunctions? Words like because, so that, if, as if, or wherefore. Wherefore, in case you're wondering, is an Old English word for why. You'll see that in terms of Romeo and Juliet when you're in 9th grade. When. Words like after, before, until, when, whenever, while, as long as soon as, since. Where words are where and wherever. How is unless, then, though, even though, as though. Notice I didn't put however on this list because typically however is going to be used as a conjunctive adverb, but technically yes, it is a subordinate conjunction if it's in the middle of a sentence. How do we find these? Well, we find all verbs, find the subjects, look for subordinate conjunctions that signal the start of a dependent clause. That might be enough depending on what your teacher's asking of you. However, you might need to keep going by determining whether that clause is going to be a noun clause. If so, if it's a word, if it's modifying a noun or pronoun, you have an adjective clause. If that word is a verb, an adjective or an adverb, you have an example of an adverb clause. If that clause is replaceable by the word it, yeah, you got it. You have a noun clause. I lost the book that held my homework. What's the verb? We have the word lost and we have the word held as our two verbs. Who or what lost? I lost. I lost what? I lost the book. Independent clause. Who or what held? The book, question mark, it kind of did, but there's the word that in between. Good catch. That's actually a relative pronoun. We don't use it often, but it's one of those words, especially in the middle of a sentence, that we actually use to connect a dependent clause to an independent clause. So the question is, what's a simple subject for held? Because held is definitely a verb. We even have held what? My homework. Well, technically that and relative pronouns oftentimes are going to be both simple subject and the pronoun connecting it. It's like doing the two jobs at once, subordinate conjunction and simple subject. So in the case we have that held my homework, that is going to be in the dependent clause. I lost the book, it. Doesn't work. So it's not a noun clause. That held my homework. What word is it describing? It's describing I lost the or book. It's describing the book. And therefore we have, in this book as a noun, we have an adjective clause. Depending on your teacher, you may also be looking at definitions like essential and non-essential clauses. If so, there are no commas in a sentence which indicate the dependent clause here is going to be an essential clause, one that has to be there. Remember, if it's between commas or between a comma and an end mark, it's a non-essential clause, one you don't have to have. Next sentence, because the class is important, I had to complete the homework again. The verb, we have is and had to complete. Who or what is? The class is. Is there an A in front of class? Yep, because. Because the class is important. Dependent clause. Who had to complete? I did. Nothing's in front of that. We have a comma, so I had to complete the homework again. That's an independent clause. So because the class is important, that becomes the dependent clause, comma, independent clause. Complex sentence. Because the class is important, can I replace that with it? It, comma. It, comma is never really going to work, so I rule that out. So the question is, because the class is important, is that describing a who or a what? Is it describing where, when, why, or how? You might want to go back to that list a couple slides back that gave you examples of the different types of subordinate conjunctions. We know that because, however, in common usage, it answers a why question. Therefore, it's going to be an adverb clause. This is going to be an essential one again because it's in a sentence and we need it there, and otherwise we lose something significant. When you do this practice, make sure to identify the subordinate clauses. Name the word or phrase that each modifies. If you aren't sure, then identify which W it modifies, a who or what, where, when, why, or how. Then label these dependent or subordinate clauses as adjective or adverb, or noun clause, if you've already found that too. Good hunting.